Okay, I think we are recording. Awesome. I don't know how to I feel like when it's like a live broadcast, I know how to start. Good evening. This is Reverend Sherry James. I am the Senior Minister for Understanding Principles Church in Inglewood, California. And this is our Thursday night Bible study. We do it online via Zoom. And I am excited to be here. I'm a little bit out of breath. I had to run get some water. If you are watching this back via YouTube and you want to join us live, go to revsherry.com and you can subscribe and get on the mailing list, and you'll get the link to join us on Thursday nights. I am super excited about tonight and about what is to come. This was a really fun piece to get into. Catch your breath, Sherry. Catch your breath. Whew. Excuse me. All right. All right. So we're on the last chapter of we're on the last chapter of Prayer, the Art of Believing from Neville Goddard, and the name of that chapter is The Greatest Prayer. And it's a powerful chapter. I mean, literally, like I underline. You can't see that well. Like literally everything on the page is underlined. Okay, and thinking, okay, how are you gonna go back through and know what's important? But it all feels important. And so the question that we are answering tonight is, how do you see yourself? How do you see yourself? And the name of the chapter again is The Greatest Prayer. So I've got a couple of announcements. We'll do our opening prayer. We'll talk about how do you see yourself and why that matters. And then we'll look at 6 precepts for praying the most important prayer. 6 precepts for praying the most important prayer. And then Q&A. I'm pulling up the blog post on my iPad so that I can have everything handy. So I think it's important that you know your why. That when you are doing anything, I think it's so important to understand why are you doing what you do. And I always share with you what my why is for this Bible Hangout specifically. Now, technically, it is the Thursday night Bible study for a church, but it's also most powerful prayer. Okay, it's for me. It's also a personal call. The teacher who really changed my life was the Reverend Dr. Mary Tompkin, who made her transition in 2013. It blows my mind that it's been that long. And it made her ministry and her teaching left such an indelible mark on my soul. It changed the way I saw everything, and it made me want to teach the way that she teaches. And so I'm so interested in giving to you what she gave to me, which was this commitment to spiritual learning, to spiritual discipline, and to really understanding who I am in God. And the single idea that I want to deposit in you more than anything else is the idea that you are divine. And I always reference the movie Inception. One, it's one of my favorite movies. But 2, the movie is about depositing a single idea into the mind of someone in such a way that it shifts the way that that person sees themselves and the ideas that occur to them. And I know that if you really latch on to this idea that you are divine, that you're not just this bag of bones that has a birth date and a death date, but that you, like God, are eternal, that it will shift everything in your life. And that there's no way for you to come to life the same way when you recognize that you are divine, when you recognize that you are made in the image likeness of God, and really like own that, not just like, oh, that sounds good, and you know, when the minister says it, but like, this is part of how I operate in life, that I'm a spiritual being, that it changes everything. And so the Bible Hangout for me, beyond being the Bible study for a church, is that what that's about for me. It is free, so you're never gonna have to pay for anything. So this is my give to the world, Up Church's give to the world, but it does cost to produce this. And so if this blesses you, if this has made a difference in your experience, would you consider making a donation toward it? You can do that right at revsherry.com, and a gift of any size is deeply appreciated, and I thank you in advance for your support. I offer spiritual mentoring, a little different from spiritual counseling, but it's where I work with you in a targeted way on something that is important to you. So you may be moving through a job transition, or you may be moving through grief, or you may be starting a business, or perhaps you're going through a big change in life. And one of the things that I have learned is that when you step into new shoes, you need a coach. You need someone that is standing there with you, who is really holding your hand and walking through that process with you. And if you are interested in doing that in a way that is spiritually ethical and holistic and loving towards yourself and all people, then you need a spiritual mentor. And so I encourage you to reach out. I would love to work with you. I have a few spaces that are available for additional clients. I only, just because of everything that's on my plate, I can only work with a few people at a time. So if you're interested in being one of those few people, I would be delighted to talk to you about it. We're on a new platform. We do this broadcast now via Zoom. So if you're watching on YouTube, this was recorded on Zoom, and you're welcome to join us. You can go to revsherry.com, put your name on the mailing list, and you'll get the links to join us live. The scripture for this series is Matthew 9:29. Then he touched their eyes, saying, according to your faith, let it be to you. According to your faith, let it be to you. And I love this scripture so much because it's my prayer that this message touches your eyes. And I don't mean your outer eyes, but I mean your inner eyes, your ability to just see beyond where you are. And so I just speak to God now and ask for the blessing to teach this class the way that it was given. I ask for just help in explaining concepts and sharing information. And I thank you, God, for you who are being revealed in us, to us right now. We open our hearts and our minds to receive what each one of us needs. And I thank you for a most amazing experience. In the name and nature of the one that is called the Christ, we affirm that it is so, and so it is. And amen. All right. How do you see yourself? Because that's what is the real deal. How you see yourself is so important. When I get an experience that I don't want, I'm always reminding myself that somewhere in me lies a belief that supports this experience. The law says, as you sow, so shall you reap. I may not always be able to match the belief to the experience, but I know God is not mocked. And so I really rest in that. I really, really rest in that something may be going on in my experience that I don't completely understand. But because I believe in the way that God has put together the universe, I recognize that something in me has a part in what is showing up in my experience. And so I have a mantra that helps me, and that mantra is, how God does anything is how God does everything. That God is consistent in a way that is just beyond amazing. In the nature of things, trees always act like trees. Birds always act like birds. You never see a bird acting like a dog. I mean, everything retains its nature and has forever retained its nature. I mean, can you imagine the chaos if we were trying to read a story from like ancient times, and like back in the day, fish behave like dogs, and so you'd have to keep that in mind, that like, okay, when I see fish back in the day, what they really mean is what we today call dogs. Like, there is this consistency. Not just that, the sun always comes up. That the sun is always comes up. It even when it rains, that if you get in an airplane and you get above those storm clouds, the sun is up. Like it's just, there's this consistency. Joe asked, can you explain God is not mine? Yes. So what so when Paul is writing this, he is basically saying, don't get weary in right doing. Don't get weary in sowing the right seed. Sometimes it can feel like I'm sowing seeds, I'm planting, I'm doing good deeds, I'm giving, I'm working along, I'm thinking right thoughts, and it doesn't seem like it's paying off. And he's saying, don't be weary. God is not mocked. This universe is a universe of laws. And so that what you sow, you're going to reap. That it isn't, you're not going to catch an instance where God is not going to show up the way God has always shown up. And so those who would think that, oh, well, this spirituality thing is just foolish, and so I'm going to mock you, I'm going to pretend to do good. And it's like, God is not mocked. If you sow good but with an evil heart, you will reap an evil harvest, because the universe, God is not mocked. I'm going to repay you for exactly what you did. That the universe is always a mirror to what's happening inside of us. Neville says it this way. He said, your life is your whole self pushed out. And I love this on it's on page 164. It's not where we are yet. But he says, people emerge out of the mass, betraying their close affinity to your moods as they are engendered. That's a real convoluted sentence. But essentially what it's saying is that you attract the people who come into your life. And because of the way that we live, and we're so outwardly focused, and we're not mindful, we don't know all of what we're carrying in our hearts, that it feels like this person is just showing up out of the blue. But because your moods continually externalize themselves, you could prophesy from your moods that you would, without search, would soon meet certain characters and encounter certain conditions. That you can look at the way that you think and feel and prophesy what's going to come about. And part of what's happening is that we have this inner conversation that's happening, meaning it's a inner running dialogue. It is so subtle that we barely notice it. It's like the background noise in a room that you don't even see. I'll give you an example. So we do these bracelets at our church. This is one of them. This is the one from this year that says, my favorite one that we've done so far. It says, God is my partner, and then embossed on the inside it says, we always win. I'm like, yeah. So one year we did one, I don't think I have it handy with me, that says, I am abundant. And so just as a, exercise I gave myself, I said, you know what? Every hour on the hour, I'm going to set my alarm, and I'm going to say, I am abundant, 50 times. And if I'm by myself, I'm going to say it aloud. And if I'm with other people, then I'm going to just say it quietly to myself. Well, there was a weekend that came when I first started the exercise, and I had some checks written against my account, and I was concerned about whether or not the checks were going to hit before the money that I was expecting came into the account. So I'm doing this exercise. I'm abundant, right? Every hour on the hour from 10 a.m. to 10 p.m. 50 times. Well, when I get to the end of the day, I was feeling bad, because what I noticed is that every time the alarm went off, I had to pull myself out of this funk, right? This emotional funk, when I was worrying about whether or not I was going to potentially bounce a check that weekend, or bounce a couple of checks that weekend, because you know how that can go. One thing sets off everything else. And then when I got present to what had happened, I realized that the only reason I noticed I was in a funk was because I was doing the exercise. Was that every hour on the hour, I was pulling myself up out of that haze. And that if I hadn't been doing the exercise, that it would have just been this kind of low-grade anxiety running in the background of my life. And so many of us have this running commentary in the back of our lives that we're completely unaware of, but it is our true consciousness. It is what is creating in our experience. We would love to have our lives created only from what we're consciously aware of that we're thinking, but there's so much more that we're thinking. And so when it says God is not mocked, it's that God ain't playing with you. If that inner dialogue is crazy like that, you can be sure that it's going to produce a harvest that matches that inner dialogue. So I hope that answers your question, Joe. I actually have an entire series on inner dialogue, and I got to find out. I don't remember what that one was called, but we did that. Okay, good. She said, got it. So let's jump in. So the ruling principle of this universe, is that a typo? It is a typo. It's WYSIWYG. And it actually comes from computers. And the idea is that when you type on the keyboard, even there are these processes that are happening in the background. But as far as you're concerned, what you see is what you get. When you type the letter H, H is P, right? That's where it comes from. But it's also the ruling principle of the universe, that what you see is what you get. We would love to think that we see the world as it is. In reality, we see the world as we are. We see the world not as it is, but as we are. And as we change, the things we look at change. So I had an experience where I was on a job and I was ultimately laid off of that job. And it was kind of a gentle firing, to tell the truth. That's really what I was laid off, but in reality, it was, you're not quite right for this position. And I said, you know what? I'm going to go through this. I'm going to be joyous through this entire experience. And I still have a great relationship with the people that I used to work with. But I did, on some level, feel like that was a little bit unfair. Well, since that time, I've done so much personal development work. I have really just, focused myself, and I am, I'm working, babe. I am. Good, honey. Go. You can tell Mike them. My class has started. Okay. So it wasn't until I was this is years now past that moment of being basically let go, that I was able to look back and see myself, like really see myself, and see how I was showing up for this job, and how no matter how talented I was, that there were ways that I was showing up that wasn't contributing to the bottom line of the company. What you see is what you get. On the one hand, I looked at this circumstance and saw unfairness. What you see is what you get. Several years removed, I can look back and see, wow, I see what was creating the problem. I see the kinds of work habits that I had that were contributing to my experience in the company and what ultimately ended up being me being laid off. So the ruling principle of the universe is WYSIWYG. What you see is what you get. So the question is, can you begin to change what you see? And can you see yourself living peacefully, full of health, debt-free, cash flow positive? And if you can, then WYSIWYG. What you see is what you get. The thing is that all things are possible for you, but only what you see shall be realized. We live in a universe where everything is possible. Anything that you want is possible for you, but only what you see shall be realized. I'll give you an example. So I'm in the process. I'm actually going through this. We're probably, unless something changes, we're probably going to introduce this program at a church where Reverend Cherie and I are going through it right now. Financial Peace University is really excellent. I'm only 4 weeks in, but I definitely recommend it. It feels like a good program. But again, we're evaluating it for 2019. So one of the things that is interesting going through this process is that, and this is a key principle, is that managed money goes further. And sometimes we can have chaos in our financial life, but because of how we look at our financial life, we think that order cannot be established and that the way that we're seeing it is the only way that it can be seen. And what's beautiful is that going through this program, it is introducing a level of order that I didn't even realize wasn't there. And so there are things that I can see now because of going through this program that I'm able to do that I couldn't see because of the way that I was looking at the situation. And so now that I'm getting a different lens to look through my finances at, I'm seeing things that are possible that I didn't even believe were possible before this moment. And so all things are possible for you. I have this, I don't know who gave this to me, but I think maybe it was a Christmas gift, and it's beautiful. And it's Philippians 4:13, and it says, I can do all things through Christ. I can do all things through Christ. I can do all things that I can see myself doing. If I can't see myself doing it, it's as good as not done. If I can't see myself doing it, it's as good as not done. I'm looking for this verse. The Father seeth the Father working. It's from John. It's a beautiful verse. Yeah, John 5:19. John 5:19. Give me Bible Gateway. So this is what John 5:19 says, and it's a beautiful verse, but it really highlights this conversation we're having right now. And it says, Jesus said to them, very truly, I tell you, the Son can do nothing on his own, but only what he sees the Father doing. The Father is the Christ within, right? The Son can only do what he sees the Father doing. Hello, I'm gonna mute somebody unless you have a question. Uh-oh. All right.
So what is that?
I can't see who's not muted.
Crackers, huh?
Recording. Okay, great. All right, I got that. So this is John 5:19, and this is what it says. Jesus said to them, very truly, I tell you, the Son can do nothing on his own. There's not anything that you can do on your own. Everything that you can do, you do because of what you see the Father doing. And he says, but only what he sees the Father doing. For whatever the Father does, the Son does likewise. All things are possible for you. Everything that you believe that you can do or want to be able to do, you have the ability to do. But you cannot do what you do not see the Father doing. What you do not see the Christ in you doing, it cannot be done by you, even though all things are possible for you. And so what you see is what you get. Let me know if that's clear. I'm just trying to go through it. But so the first thing is I want you to really understand your seed potential. And this is really this is powerful, right? So if we look at the way that God creates, this is Genesis chapter 1, verse 12. He says, and the earth brought forth grass and herb yielding seed after its kind, and the tree yielding fruit whose seed was in itself after its kind. Don't miss that. The words I want you to notice, whose seed was in itself. Now, remember I said everything, the way how God does anything is how God does everything. Everything that God creates comes with its own seed in it. Get that? Like really, really like if you get a watermelon, the seed of the watermelon is in the watermelon. If you get an orange, The seed of the orange is in the orange, right? The seed of what will produce future oranges. If you get an apple, the seed of the apple is in the apple. And this is true throughout the kingdom, right? Right? The trees, the seed of the bird is in the bird. The seed of the fish is in the fish. You know, the reproductive processes might be different, but the means to reproduce itself are contained within itself. God puts the seed potential, right? And the seed is that blueprint. God puts the seed potential of the thing itself inside the thing. That's how God creates. Then we get to verse 26, and it reads, and God said, let us make humankind in our image and after our likeness. So, how can I say this? We're the seed in God of God. I hope this is, y'all got to give me a comment or something so that I know that this is landing. When he gets to humankind, he puts the seed of himself in us, which means everything God can do, I can do, but only if I can see it. WYSIWYG. What you see is what you get. What you see is what you get. So now, the second part of this is that you control what awakens in the seed potential. God's potential is your potential, right? This is what Neville is telling us. He's saying every dream that could be realized by those who are self-disciplined enough to see it, right? Those who are willing to do what John 5:19 tells us, which is to, this is what the verse says. John 5:19 says, very truly I tell you, the Son can do nothing on his own, but only what he sees the Father doing. For whatever the Father does, the Son does likewise. Right? The Father loves the Son and shows him all that he himself is doing, and he will show him greater works than these, so that you will be astonished. Right? Only what you can see the Father doing, only what you can see the Christ of you doing, right? You in your imagination, the formless you, only what you can see yourself doing is what you can have. And so then my potential then is God, or God's potential, excuse me, I should say it that way. God's potential is my potential, but only if I can see it. That's a question. Nisi says, heard one say, you see what you believe, not the other way around. Yes. Yes, yes. That's it. You see what you believe. And when you when your belief changes, you see something different. When your belief changes, you see something different. And so you're continually working on your belief, right? You're working on believing God for more so that you can have more, because that's how it comes into your experience. So maybe believing that God's potential is your potential is just too big of a leap, right? That might be like, you know, in the otherworldly fantastic, I can't go there with you. Joe says, I hear you, but it's hard to believe. I can work with it though. I mean, I'm willing to work with it. Got it. Yes. Right. So maybe that's just too big of a leap. That's fine. Start with Jesus. Okay. That's what we do it. Start with Jesus. So this is Neville's quote. He says, Jesus of Nazareth, who scattereth the evil with his eye, is asleep in the imagination of every man. Out of his own imagination must man awaken him by subjectively affirming, I am Jesus. Now, hear this. I'm not telling you to be delusional. I don't want anybody to walk away with that, because I thought about that. I'm like, this probably sounds like everything be delusional. That's not what I'm saying. Then and only then will he see Jesus, for man, we can only see what is awake within ourselves. Again, I'm going to use this program as an example because there are so many wonderful things that are coming out of the exercise of going through this, right? So I had this idea that things could only go a certain way because of the debt to income ratio, and that there was very little that could be changed about the circumstance unless more income was injected into the experience. Going through the program, I'm seeing possibilities that I didn't even know were there. I'm acquiring the skills of managing money, and so that quality is awakening itself in me, so I'm seeing things differently. I don't see everything, I only see what is awake inside of me. And so when you begin to affirm, I am Jesus, you begin to awaken the qualities, the attitudes, the habits, the beliefs of Jesus, and it changes how you see. It changes how you see. It changes how you see, right? You just said it, was it Nisi or Joe, that she said, you see what you believe. I didn't believe there were possibilities. So every time I looked at the financial picture, there was a way that I thought about it. It wasn't until I began to acquire a new skill that what I saw changed. The numbers didn't change. The figures didn't improve. I just saw different possibilities. And I'm saying that as you affirm, I am Jesus, there is a skill that you begin to pick up. Because here's the thing, your seed potential is limitless, right? God's potential is your potential. But you only bring forth according to what is awake within you. The thing is that you control what's awake in you. You control what's awake in you. The seed potential is yours to work with. Alita says, change your thoughts, change your life. Yes. You control what's awakened in your seed potential. God's potential is my potential, which means I'm unlimited. But only what I have awakened can express. So the potential is always greater than the expression, right? But the expression reflects what's been awakened in the potential. And so everything in your world points to a belief that's been awakened in you. Do you want a different experience? Do you want a different experience in your money, Sherry? Yeah, then you've got to awaken something different in you. Are you ready for a supernaturally charged life? Yeah, then you got to awaken something different in you. May McCarthy this weekend, I love the way she explained it because she was sharing things through her own spiritual practice. And this question is a little bit of a hat tip to her. She said, are you open to a Red Sea parting, water coming from rocks, feeding 5,000 with a few fish and loaves kind of lifestyle? Yeah? Then awaken it. See it in you. That's really it. It's really to get that you control what's awakened in your seed potential. Seed potential is limitless, but only what you have awakened can express through you. So number 3, you want to agree with the seed potential of all things. So what happens when you begin to affirm and to pray, I am Jesus? You awaken the skill to see as Jesus sees. This prayer gives you a skill. This prayer gives you a skill. The prayer, I am Jesus, awakens in you the skill to see as Jesus sees. So here's what starts to happen. You stop sympathizing and agreeing with limitations of human beings. In your own mind, you start separating people from their false concepts of themselves and their true being. So you no longer look and see homeless man on the road. What you see is Christ expressing as homeless man on the road. When you begin to pray, I am Jesus, you develop the skill to see as Jesus sees. So you no longer see your name and fill in whatever ailment you're dealing with. You see so and so expressing this condition that can change and can be improved and can be dissolved back into the nothingness from which it came. When you begin to pray, I am Jesus, you develop this super low tolerance for excuses. This is the beauty of something I'm finding as a minister, because people will come to you whining about how they can't do something, and you begin to awaken in them an awareness that they can. You don't let people sit in their limitations. And it's gentle. It's not degrading or anything like that. No shaming. They come complaining to you about how bad it is, and you start waking up and stirring up a consciousness in them for their capacity to expand. And so people start to step up in your presence instead of sitting down. See, this is one of the things about Reverend Mary that I loved, right? So when I first met Reverend Mary, she changed my life. One sermon, Chicago, summer 1998. And then I started following her around everywhere. And that was like my goal. Like wherever she was, I was there. And so I finagled my way onto the education subcommittee, and I was the secretary on the committee. And I was the one that could use computers and write up minutes. And so I got to travel with these incredible spiritual luminaries and go all over the country with them, all over the world, but in the U.S. and the Caribbean and Canada. And it was amazing. And Reverend Mary would ask for things, and she had just a no excuses policy. But the people around her stepped up. She didn't see them as limited. And so at least as far as when they were in her presence, they stopped behaving as if they were limited. And it was just amazing what she was able to insist on, because super low tolerance for excuses. Don't come complaining about how bad it is. I don't remember who this was. Somebody in our congregation came in with a cast on their leg, on their foot one day, and she said, I see you got a foot. And it was like, you better tell that foot they make new ones. It was this idea that you're not limited, that you have the ability to be, do, and have whatever you can dream and be, do, and have. And so as you begin to affirm this, I love this. This is a quote directly from Neville. To the one who dares to affirm, I am Jesus, poverty is but the sleep of wealth. Poverty is but the sleep of wealth. That I might see you living in a limited circumstance, I recognize that you're wealthy. That the wealth is the truth of your experience, and that I'm developing the power inside of me that I can call it forth in you, that I can begin to introduce this idea in you. They called, I heard this from one of my members now, but she grew up she grew up in Cleveland, but anyway, she said they used to call Christ Universal Temple the fur and Cadillac church. That you might go in there broke, but you leave with a fur and a Cadillac. That the energy, that you can produce an energy in such a way that it wakes up the awareness of it in the people that are connected to you. We see this with Usain Bolt, right? Usain Bolt, so before Usain Bolt, America dominated track and field. That's just what it was. Michael Johnson, Carl Lewis, that if somebody was taking home gold in track and field, it was going to be an American athlete. And then Usain Bolt came on the scene. And he didn't just take gold, he took a culture back to Jamaica. All of a sudden, you see other Jamaican athletes breaking gold, breaking gold, breaking gold, breaking gold. Because he woke something up in them. And so they're practicing, but they're running against the fastest man in the world. And so they're watching how he does things, and they're being changed by how he's become who he is. That's exciting to me. That you can develop a quality in yourself so strongly that it positively influences everybody around you. that just being in your presence, people wake up. That to me, that's worth living for. That's worth living for. Number 4, success is the default setting in your seed potential. Sometimes we worry about success. I know forgive me, Lord, I'm one. But when I got this, I said, oh God, this is good. Though unformed, the oak within the acorn is complete. What the acorn can become is never going to deviate from its seed potential. An oak tree is never going to become an orange tree. Or the acorn is never going to become an orange tree. Right? It's never going to deviate. And this is the thing. How God does anything is how God does everything. Because God is real consistent in how he does things, that's also true of you. Though unformed, the spiritual giant within you is complete. Baby, you gotta let me finish. You're gonna have to ask Mike, okay? Okay. Though unformed, the spiritual giant within you is complete. What you can become is never going to deviate from your seed potential. Now, here's the thing. You can keep the acorn from becoming an oak because you can put it in a jar of alcohol, right? You can put in some adverse circumstances. You could block off the sunlight and the water, right? So you can stunt its growth. And that might be what's happened in your life, right? Metaphorically, you've been dropped in a bottle of alcohol, right? You grew up in a culture where they didn't encourage women to pursue things that were interesting to you. Or you grew up in a society where just racially you were just discriminated against at every turn. Or maybe, you endured heinous cruelty. Some of the things that happen to children just turn my stomach. The way that some children are preyed on is one of my it's one of the things that I'm always mindful of, and I'm always watching with Jordan because I want to protect his body, right? The things that people do to little kids. It's like I want to make sure the kid can he be the one kid that grows up that doesn't get violated in some way. But this is the beautiful thing. Someone and something can impact the factors that influence your manifestation, but they can't change the blueprint. Your seed potential can never be canceled. A few years ago, when I cited it in the blog post, there was a tree that was extinct, and archaeologists unearthed the seeds of this plant that were in a jar, and it was called the Judean date palm tree. These seeds for a tree that no longer exists, so that it hadn't been planted in ever, right? It wasn't like it was like a crop somewhere. They planted these seeds and the trees grew. Remember, how God does anything is how God does everything. So if God did not cancel the seed potential in the Judean date palm tree, then he didn't cancel your potential either. Success is the default setting in your seed potential. And so what makes an acorn become an oak are the right conditions, right soil, good sunlight, good water. And the same is true for you. What makes the limited human being grow into an awareness, into the spiritual giant that they are, is good soil, right water, right sunlight, and puts you in the right conditions, and you are unlimited. And so you've got to know that I might have been thwarted by how I was raised or where I was raised or the things that have happened to me, but my seed potential is intact and can never be canceled. And so it's never too late for me to be who God designed me to be. So where do you start? You start by changing what you see in yourself. This is the thing, and you said this, Nisi, which is that you see what you believe. right? Neville says, man only sees himself. Nothing befalls man that is not of the nature of himself. If it's there, it's in you. And you may not like it, but the universe is painstakingly consistent. If the fruit is there, it's from the tree, you being the tree. Before earning the label Oracle of St. Quentin, Curtis Carroll grew up poor and illiterate. Carroll says his family never had much money. They lived on welfare and bounced around from the streets to homeless shelters to churches to apartments in and around Oakland. And this article, there's a ton of articles, ton of videos on this young man. I think he's dynamic. This one I sourced from marketwatch.com. He fell into a life of crime that culminated in him killing a man in a botched robbery attempt. In prison, he's illiterate. In prison, so what he would do, he would grab the sports section and have his cellmate read it to him. One day, he grabs the business section by mistake. And an old man sees it and says, oh, hey, you play the stock market? And he's like, no, what's that? And the guy said, well, that's where white people keep their money. And so, he had always been focused on money. And so this desire to understand this place where white people keep their money drove him to want to learn to read. Him learning to read changed what he saw in himself. And when he saw himself differently, his external picture changed. It's a powerful story. I look up any interview on him, Curtis Carroll. He is a remarkable, remarkable story of human potential, of the seed potential not being canceled. That someone may thwart your circumstances by organizing it so that you grow up in, and I'm not saying this happened to him, right? That you grow up in a poor area, right? So you can gerrymander some stuff, right? You can like you're gonna outdo God. You can try to circumscribe some people into a corner through policy, but you can't cancel God. You can't cancel the seed potential. And the seed potential will, in the right soil, and for him, the right soil was being locked up next to the people that he was locked up next to, learning to read. And today, he is literally empowering inmates. Some of what happens when these inmates get out is that they don't have any job skills. They basically have been cut off from the world. The world has moved on. They went to jail in the 80s, but now it's the 2000s, right? So they have no marketable skills. And so they get out and they go right back in, because how do you get any money to live? And so no one is teaching them financial literacy. This young man, this is so wonderful and so dynamic, becomes financially literate, and he begins to teach that financial literacy to the inmates so that when they get out, they can do something different with their lives if they want to. And so it's an incredible story, because they're not really interested in learning that, but he's so committed with a vision of sharing it that he starts learning what they want and giving them what they want. And when he gives them what they want, the exchange is that he gives them what they need. Oh, it's a powerful story. But listen, that's not the Bible we have tonight. What I want to talk about is how you see something different in yourself. Skill acquisition is the key to changing what you see in yourself. Every year, you need to have one new thing, preferably something a little bit hard, that you are doing to change who you are, to expand who you are. The way that you awaken new things in the seed potential, right? Because remember, you can only have according to the seed potential. Excuse me, you can only have according to what's awake in the seed potential. Seed potential is infinite. It's expansive, it's unending. You're never going to get to the end of who you are, but only what's awake gets to get expressed. So every year, you need some new skill that you're acquiring, because that new skill is expanding on the seed potential. It's changing how you see yourself. It's changing how you see so every year, what skill am I learning this year? What is 2018 about? Well, 2018 for me is about money, financial literacy. That's 2018 is money management and financial literacy. That's my game right now, right? And as I do it, it's changing what I see in myself. It's shifting me completely. Things that I thought that I could not do, I'm starting to see possibilities that I didn't even know was there. Skill acquisition. It's the key to changing what you see in yourself. So what skill will you acquire? Because see, when Curtis learned to read, his whole life changed. He saw something different in himself. And so new possibilities were awakened for him. And so the final thing, the sixth thing is reach for your highest possible rank. Don't stop with the affirmative prayer, I am Jesus. Go for the Christ. Neville says, let us seek for and evoke the greatest rank, and the noblest of all is that which disrobes man of his mortality and clothes him in uncurbed immortal glory. Let us assume the feeling, I am Christ. And our whole behavior will subtly and unconsciously change in accordance with that assumption. Christ is your seed potential. When you let go of every excuse for why life is the way it is, when you finally just do away with believing in your own limitations, and when you really recognize that you are one with God and that success is your default setting, you will begin to see something different within yourself. And when you see something different in you, it's like, watch out. I have a board member, Linda Small, and she says, I'm a manifesting machine. I'm telling you, when you begin to see something different in you, you'll be able to say with Linda, I'm a manifesting machine. There's nothing that's limited about you. So the most powerful prayer that you can pray for a miracle is, I am Christ. I am Christ. With these words, what happens is that you identify with your real self. You throw off the belief in limitation. You open the door for unlimited creation. I am Christ is what takes the acorn out of the bottle of alcohol. It's what removes all the blockages to the sunlight. It optimizes the conditions and the circumstances around you. And it enables the seed potential within you to germinate, to grow, to expand until the spiritual giant within you reaches its full potential. There is no limit on your life. But you have some authority and some dominion over what gets awakened and expressed through you. And when you pray the right prayer, you begin to open new dimensions within yourself that will blow even your mind. And so affirm, I am Christ. And then what new skill will you commit to acquire this year? What new skill will you commit to acquire this year? And then before you move to your next task, thank you so much for hanging with me for the hour. Before you move to your next task, just take 5 minutes and just practice it. Just sit with it. I am Christ. Just sit with those words and then journal whatever comes up for you. Whatever it is. Just to work with those, work with that. Begin to turn that on inside of yourself. And then if this webinar helped you, please, if you're watching this on YouTube, please subscribe and share with a friend. And if you're watching this on YouTube and you want to get on the newsletter and join us live, you can go right to redsherry.com and do that. We do this Bible study every Thursday night, 7 o'clock Pacific. And we do it via Zoom, which is a free platform. Thank you guys so much. Any questions? Any questions? Nisa says, soaking it all in. Okay, got it. Thank you so much. I am, oh, there we go. I am going to be in Chicago, April 21st through the 23rd. I'm going to be speaking at Christ Universal Temple, April 22nd. So I'm going to be there. It is the 7th anniversary for the Reverend Dr. Derek Wells. And I'm going to be there with him and First Lady Sylvia. And so if you're in the Chicago area, I know that's like Wisconsin is near there, and Indiana or Indianapolis, or I don't know that geography. Anyway, if you're near Chicago, come hang out. I'm going to be there for almost, not quite a week, a little under a week. And I would love to see you while I'm there. All right, everybody. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful, oh, we got to pick our next text. So let me tell you what was on my mind as another Neville Goddard. Well, I had two things. I had your faith is your fortune. This is Neville Goddard. And then I also had speak peace in a world of conflict. Your faith is your fortune. Speak peace in a world of conflict. What do you think? The faith one. Yes, got it. Whew. A thick book. It's a whole book. Ooh, listen, the subtitle, Faith in God is measured by confidence in yourself. Faith in God is measured by confidence in yourself. All right. Faith is your fortune. So this is where we're going next week. Faith is your fortune. Please take a look at chapter 1, which is off the chart, off the chain. Before Abraham was. Before Abraham was is the name of the chapter. Before Abraham was. Oh, Neville. He says, when all of the time shall cease to be, I am. I am the formless awareness of being, conceiving myself to be. By my everlasting law of being, I am compelled to be and to express all that I believe myself to be. I am the eternal no-thingness containing within my formless self the capacity to be all things. All right, let's get it. So, have a wonderful, wonderful evening. And next week, your faith is your fortune. Your faith is your fortune. Plant the seed, stand still, and the law will grow from within. All right, I appreciate you guys, and I will see you in a week. God bless.